Hi everyone. Okay, today I'm gonna choose and rank my top 10 favorite rock artists. In that case, it's my top 10 favorite rock bands from the 90s. And I'd like to know your list, and you can choose solo artists, if you wish. But for my list, these are 10 my 10 favorite rock bands, 10 favorite alternative rock bands because I really enjoyed, I love the alternative rock music from the 90s. But first of all, a few honorable mentions: Mazzy Star, Slow Dive, Foo Fighters, Echo Belly, My Bloody Valentine also, but I didn't put My Bloody Valentine, in my list. I love their Loveless album they released in the 90s, but it was their only album that they released in the 90s, and that's the rule for this video, for this ranking, this list. Each and every artist or each and every band must have released at least three official studio albums or two official studio album plus one compilation of songs from singles or EPs, stuff like that, not appearing on their official studio albums. Okay, and by the way, one more honorable mention. Pearl Jam. Yeah, some people might think I'm crazy because I didn't include Pearl Jam, which was one of the most popular band from the 90s. At the moment, they are number 11, but it could change next week, next month, or next year. But at the moment, they're number 11. But I swear, I really like their music. But they didn't make my list at the moment. Okay, so here we go. At number 10, my 10th favorite rock band from the 90s is Curve, and these are my favorite albums that they released in the 90s: Doppelganger and Cuckoo. And they also did that pretty interesting compilation, which is called Pubic Fruit, which I don't have, which is a collection of songs from singles or EPs. No, I'm wrong. It's a collection of their first three EPs, so it's almost like another official studio album to me, And I always really like their sound, This is something ambient. Uh, it sounds like, a dance beat or techno beat combined with electric guitars, with effects. Pretty original sound. So Curve at number 10. Number 9 for me is the Cranberries. And these are my three favorite albums they released from the 90s. Everybody else is doing it, so why can't we? No need to argue with Zombie, of course. And to the faithful departed, and Dolores O'Riordan had such a unique voice. So the Cranberries are number 9 on my list. Number 8 now. Number 8, number 7, and number 6 could be switched. These bands could be placed in any order. It was so hard to rank these bands in the right order. But at the moment, I would go for All, and this is the best All album, in my opinion. Live Through This. Great from start to finish. Celebrity Skin is also another pretty good album. Their two best album. Their first one, Pretty on the Inside, was a fine album, but not as great as these two albums. Also, really enjoyed their compilation, which is called My Bodied Hand Grenade, which is a collection of songs from singles, EPs, rarities, stuff like that. So anyway, All is number 8 on my list at the moment. Number 7, I went for REM, but number 7 and number 6 could be switched. I went for REM, I think this is their most popular album. This is my favorite album, favorite REM album from the 90s. Automatic for the People. A Monster is another pretty fine album. And same thing for New Adventures in a Hi-Fi. Pretty good albums. REM at number 7. Number 6. This could be a very surprising choice or controversial choice. I don't know. I think a lot of people would choose that band as their favorite or second favorite rock band from the 90s. But I went for Nirvana, but I swear, I really like their music, but I especially love, their best-selling album, Nevermind, which is a classic masterpiece. What a great album. I enjoyed their other albums, like In Utero and that compilation, which is called Incesticide. But for me, Nevermind, even if I enjoyed those two albums, to me, Nevermind was a much better album. So Nirvana at number 6. Number 5, I went for Radiohead, and I really like or love the all 3 albums they released in the 90s, which means, of course, OK Computer, the bands, and even Pablo Honey. I know that a lot of Radiohead fans hate that album, but I think it is criminally underrated. I think this is a pretty good album, in my opinion. So, Pablo Honey, the bands, and OK Computer. These are the 3 albums they released in the 90s, and they are number 5 on my list, Radiohead. Okay, next up, number 4, I went for Sonic Youth. And this is my favorite Sonic Youth album, Goo. Another great album, great from start to finish. Dirty is pretty good too. Also like Washing Machine, which I don't have. And I always love their sound. I think their sound is something pretty original. Nothing sounds like Sonic Youth. And they are number 4 on my list. Okay, let's continue at number 3. I went for the Jesus and Mary Chain, and I always love their melodies. They did a lot. They wrote great melodies, in my opinion. This is such a great album. On Is Dead. And this is one of my favorite, probably one of my top. This is a top 5 favorite rock album of the 90s for me. On Is Dead. Also really like Stone and Dethrone, which I don't have, once again. And also really like that compilation, which is called The Sound of Speed, with songs from EPs, singles, rarities, stuff like that. So the Jesus and Mary Chain at number 3. Number 2 for me, almost number 1, almost number 1, and sometimes they could be number 1, just depends on how I feel, but at the moment they're number 2. And I'm talking about the Smashing Pumpkins, which could be a very popular choice, I think, for number 1. And these 2 albums, Melancholy and the Infinite Sadness and Siamese Dreams, and especially Siamese Dream, I think this is a top 3 favorite rock album from the 90s for me. But Melancholy and the Infinite Sadness is also a pretty good album, and everything they did in the 90s, or almost everything they did in the 90s, was pretty good. Gish, their first album, was pretty good. Same thing for that compilation, Pisces Iscariot. Great stuff, the Smashing Pumpkins. So the Smashing Pumpkins at number 2. And finally, at number 1 for me, and this is just a personal choice, not a very well-known band, but this is my favorite rock band at the moment from the 90s, and I'm talking about Lush. And my favorite album is that compilation. Once again, this is a compilation of songs from their mini album, EPs, and single, not appearing on any other album. So this is almost like an official album for me. And the album in question is called Gala. So Gala, and which is my favorite Lush album, and Split, which is my second favorite Lush album, another great album. Also really like Spooky, and they did a couple of songs, from singles, pretty other good songs, from singles or EPs, and I always loved their sound right from the first time I heard their music. Their music is something very ambient, with a lot of effects on their guitars, delay effects, phaser or flanger effects. I think their melodies were pretty good, and same thing for their vocal harmonies, and they are number one for me, Lush. And by the way, that band came 3 times in Montreal, and I was there the 3 times and really enjoyed those 3 shows. So Lush at number one. So that was it for that video, for that ranking, for that list. I hope that you enjoyed, and I'd like to know what is your personal list. What is your personal top 10 favorite rock artists or top 10 favorite rock bands from the 90s. So thanks for watching, and see you for my next video.